Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for joining our series of digital asset management deep dive webinars. We will be looking into all aspects of digital asset management, especially as we find ourselves in the current climate. Digital asset management is a large undertaking, even when simply changing from one DAM system to another. It's important to construct and then implement a digital strategy. The key to developing strategy is realizing that while DAM sits at the heart of the delivery of digital content within an organization, the software itself is just one part. Organizational wide considerations must be made. And before you select a vendor, software vendor that is, which most people do, we believe that that's a mistake. And this is why we want to go through the 6 steps of DAM. Implementing DAM successfully involves people, processes, information, and systems, not just buying and installing a piece of software and keeping your fingers crossed for the best. So hopefully you will join us over the next 6 weeks where we will go deep. And today we're just going to look into an overview of what the 6 steps is. And I'd like to introduce our participants, our panelists. My name is Mark Davey. I am the founder of IQ Equity. I am also the founder of the Codified Consultant. And I'd like to introduce my erstwhile friend, Fred. Hello, Fred.
Thank you, Mark. So we're very delighted to join the team also with great experts on my side. But maybe you know, I spent a couple of times on customer side, more or less 20 years, DAM manager, DAM production manager. And more or less since 1 year, take the lead of Activo Consulting to provide agnostic consultancy for customer brands, retailers, agencies, in order to make the right selection. And I think this is the right subject today.
Thank you, Fred. Sean, would you like to introduce yourself?
Certainly. Hi, everyone. Hope you're all staying safe in these strange times. My name's Sean Proctor. I joined IQ Equity just over a year ago, having defected from the client side, where for many years I worked hands-on with digital asset management, product information management, multi-channel publishing and web development, amongst other things. With IQ Equity, I'm now involved in DAM strategy and implementation, focusing mainly on proof of concept and sandbox builds. I'm also responsible for the development of our company websites and currently working on the new Codified Consultant data report offerings, which we'll be launching over the coming weeks. So some good stuff coming up. Thank you.
Sean. Thank you, Sean. James, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Hello, everybody. My name's James Rourke. I'm a data scientist and a DAM specialist. I've been working in DAM consultancy with IQ Equity for 7 years. And I helped Mark to create the Codified DAM Consultant. And before that, I was involved in research and software evaluation.
Thank you, James. Right, let's get started. So, brief history. My background, 20 odd years ago, I was working for an advertising marketing agency and we were looking to solve a problem and discovered DAM. Subsequently, I started looking for information and sharing information and blogging, and ultimately I met thought leaders in the space and we decided to create the DAM Foundation, which is a not-for-profit think tank. Some years later, we developed the DAM maturity model to help companies evaluate where they sit and how they can move the needle from ad hoc, incipient, all the way through to optimal, and where IQ Equity come in, optimized. And subsequently to that, some years later, we developed the first and only, I believe, accreditation of DAM vendors called the 10 core characteristics. And ultimately, this is where we are today, where we've created the DAM consultant and taken the complexity down to 6 steps to DAM success. Sean. You need to unmute, Sean.
Okay, sorry guys, I had a coughing spasm, so I put myself on mute.
Oh, you're isolated.
Okay, first I'm just going to reiterate a point Mark made in the introduction, but it is very important. The key to constructing a digital strategy is realising that although DAM sits at the heart of digital content delivery within an organisation, the software itself is only one part, and organisation-wide considerations must be made. The 6 steps to DAM success, which has been developed by IQ Equity, is based on our extensive industry knowledge, which has been gathered from over 20 years of combined experience in the DAM sector between us all. Carefully following the 6 steps makes it possible for you to better understand your business by focusing on what you need to help prepare the entire organisation for ongoing improvements, which will set you on the road to full digital transformation. It's a solid framework that identifies your requirements against accredited DAM vendors, helping you construct and implement a successful DAM strategy. So, the Codified Consultant, it's an online subscription-based resource that gives our customers access to a set of tools, documentation, and data to help walk them through the 6 steps process. And the unique database behind all this, which is the most extensive that's available out there, covers every aspect of specialised DAM-specific information that you'll ever need. And just to add that in addition to the Codified Consultant and 6 steps, we also provide bespoke data services, reports and analyses to personalise the digital transformation process to fit a customer's particular needs. We've consulted for businesses and organisations from a wide range of verticals and different sectors on all aspects of implementing a successful digital strategy. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Sean. Okay, so the first step for us is the preliminary. We want you to self-assess. You can come onto our website, we will give you a link, and this will enable you to fill out a form that looks at people, processes, informations, and systems. Basically what you do is you import the data, and then we will fill out a report and map that against your capabilities. We see here technical expertise is ad hoc to incipient. And we also do considerations and textual elements about how you can actually move the needle across. And this is the first start. You do the self-assessment, and then we get deep into the gap analysis part, which I will hand over to James to talk through.
Thank you, Mark. So during my time at IQ Equity, I've worked largely on the client side. As I said, I've been involved in evaluating, comparing and contrasting DAM vendors. What I've learned, one of the things I've learned is that a lot of issues are shared across the industry, regardless if the specific details are different. And so there are ways that we can standardize the solution to these problems. And that's kind of why we came up with the 6 steps. We condense down the process that we take as consultants when we're working with a client. So put very simply, we make a broad assessment of the company's current state. We then look at the resources they have available. We use this information to establish what they want from a DAM system and build a requirements document. We help them to instigate change in the organization and prepare themselves for DAM through governance. This allows them to understand the specific roles and use cases of their end users in detail. And then once all this preparatory work's been carried out, we start to look for a software vendor that's suitable for their needs. So Mark's already touched on gap analysis. Now, gap analysis is where you look at a business with a broad scope and identify strengths and weaknesses. The DAM maturity model is an example of gap analysis, and as Mark mentioned, covers people, information, processes, and systems. One of the subject areas that we cover in the DAM maturity model is findability. And findability is a main driver behind DAM acquisition. People aren't able to find what they're looking for. We recently carried out some research on a multinational client we were working for and found that 42% of respondents took 4 to 6 attempts to find what they're looking for, and also that around 15% of people spend more than 5 hours searching for content in the average week. I mean, these figures broadly represent what we see across the industry. And while this kind of information may be obvious to some of you on the front line using DAM or similar technologies, it can be quite a shocking revelation to the C-suite and those making decisions on software acquisition. And it kind of highlights the importance of gap analysis. It's a tool to help you establish a business case. It's hard to argue against making changes when nearly half your workforce are wasting man hours searching and failing to find content. The ordering of the categories in the maturity model is deliberate. We think you should start with the people in your organization, then move on to information such as metadata and assets, then processes, and then systems. As consultants, we would go into an organization and we would interview stakeholders. We would carry out a resource audit, and we'd establish the people, assets, metadata, storage sources, workflows involved across the business, and talk to people about the pain points that they're having. It's nice to be able to talk face to face with stakeholders, but we know that that's not as easy as it once was. But be aware that even a simple questionnaire can give you a wealth of information, which on analyzing can help you shape your DAM strategy, can help you to build RFPs and RFIs, and can make the decision-making process much easier. So the research highlighted by this graph is interesting, and it shows the way that despite having many software systems at your disposal, the likelihood is that most people will be communicating and collaborating via email and telephone in the main. It also highlights an interesting point which we see frequently. The use of platforms such as SharePoint are often used as a makeshift DAM. And what we found during this research was that people were sidestepping security and rights management protocols in the process because they found using SharePoint was much easier. It was more familiar to them, and it saved them time. And these are the kinds of things, the kinds of snippets of information that you must establish and strive towards for your DAM project. To return to an early point, we can encourage clients. We always encourage clients to engage with end users. And you can have the best software in the world, but if people aren't using it, then it's not going to achieve what you want it to achieve. It's almost useless. Understanding the type, format, and volume of content being produced across the organization can be important in guiding requirements gathering and eventually in helping you decide which DAM systems best suit your needs. Back over to you, Mark.
Yeah, thank you very much, James. Yeah, as James says, by aggregating all the information, going to as many of your users as stakeholders as possible with gap analysis and resource audit helps you build a picture that enables you to put a business case, look at the return on investment, and indeed put a plan in place that helps users as it opposed to DAM. Fred, do you have anything to say to this?
Yeah, I think it's two important things. So at the early beginning, we saw this DAM maturity model, which is very important as a foundation for every project alongside the digital transformation. I see so many people asking, do we have a standard? Do we have something? Do we have to believe the last vendor who has the most money or anything like that? So how we can rely on something to be sure that we'll make a right selection. And then we saw some great analytics, and thanks really for this analysis alongside customer requirements and etc. And this is exactly the representation of what I see more or less every day. As a dam product owner by Michelin and some other customers, I can tell you it's a real job in order to make a customer understand that it just needs one place to gather all the assets of the organization, and not, as I can see sometimes, 3, 5 times 6 dams. As James was saying, you can get the best software ever. You need to use it at one time. And it's true that today, a recent survey from MuleSoft just shared that by some organization, you have more than 900 tools. We just saw, as for example, also last month that the chief market was unveiling this crazy map with 15% more solutions. So where I can start? So the reason why it's very important to get this done as really the foundation. And I can see also that, especially for brands or e-retailers, they are using the dam really to aggregate all the assets, to send again the content within PIM up to the CMS. So it's today, the dam is not simply as a single source of truth. Okay, and it's not also something very important. It's not because you just have thumbnails on the browser that it's a dam. It's much more complex than that. So today, the dam is a modern dam. It's something, as we saw, based on the customer requirements, means workflows, advanced capabilities to manage the files, and etc.
Sorry, Fred, I pushed it too soon. As you mentioned, requirements. So we take exactly the same process when we're looking at requirements. In fact, our system has over 350 requirements that takes the step from gap analysis, resource audit. You then start to see, okay, what are the tools? What are the systems? What are the problems? How do you get to integrate and take away the silo mentality? How do you build a use case from the requirements for all the different people within the organization, be it marketing, web content management, photographers, you name it, everybody in the organization is actually using content. And we recommend that the form-based system, once you've identified your first adopters and your stakeholders, that you can really get down deep levels of requirements by asking the questions about whether it's remote access. What tools and systems are they using? You've already understand the implications of the pain points and the hours spent. You can then start looking at how you do the next part, which is gathering those requirements for a business case and then mapping them directly to vendors and vendor capabilities. So we're showing a piece of the requirements gathering data where we've asked the question about client branding and logos, whether dashboard customization is needed, what kind of languages are needed. And obviously some vendors do multiple languages and some only do a few. How important is that actual requirement and how well does the vendor suit that? And when we get into the vendor analysis later, where we use the 10 core characteristics, we put a score against it, we go into other aspects of digital asset management, and then we're mapping all these requirements, the 350 or so, directly to your use case based on your pain points, and then the vendors that are fit for purpose. Fred.
Yeah, that's really a great job, and especially alongside, as James was saying, the RFPs, RFIs, etc. It's when you have to make a selection at one time, you don't have to believe PowerPoints and slides, so you have to engage the vendors alongside the use case scenario, and especially for all these requirements. It's so much more important. And as for example, we have the example of the security. It's not only the security of your assets, digital rights management, where you need to know the life cycle of your assets from the DAM to the PIM to the CMS, as for example, I do with Michelin. It's very important to where are you going your assets. But in the meantime, security is also a very big question. We see different types of DAM system today. I would say we have the old one and the new one. And sometimes just because it's funny, it's nice, you said maybe this is the right one. So really take care, because in fact, security is so much important, especially for brands. Everybody tries to get information from one to each other. And as we said, you have a lot of things regarding workflows, integration, and APIs can fail a couple of times. It doesn't mean because you have an API, a nice UI, that you have a right system. So security is really, and I think it was something also from the MuleSoft survey, really at the top of brands' requirements today.
Thank you, Fred. So let's get to the elephant in the room. One of the biggest reasons for dams failing is a lack of governance. People tend, and organizations tend to go, yeah, we'll get to governance, but you know, we want to get a system. Well, you can't get a system unless you've already done the pre-work. And by bringing in the think tank in your organization, the subject matter experts, discussing their use and repurposing and transforming and distribution points of content, and then wrapping it around a plan, bringing those people in and talking about the data model, taxonomy governance, controlled vocabularies, metadata standards, file naming conventions. Some of this stuff needs to be mandated. And in some cases, in order to mandate and mandate change, the organization needs to have people that can actually do that. So you have levels of people with the different expertise who understand the complexities, or you explain the complexities, or you explain the power of metadata. So governance is the guidebook for your dam system. It outlines administration, maintenance, support of the dam. You know, why is the change going to happen? What precisely are you proposing to do? How do you propose to make them? When will they happen? And how are you doing it now? And what are the changes? And during that aspect of gathering all this data, you start mapping the governance right from the beginning. You get buy-in from the management, and you get it driven by management in terms of any mandates that could change your relationships with agencies, for instance, especially when you're looking at acquiring metadata. Because ultimately, dam systems and the good dam systems allow you to add keywords and strings very quickly. But what you want to get is the metacognition, the brain power metadata with the people within your organization. And as I say, this is just an overview, but as we go into the deep dive other series, we'll really flesh out these points, talk to our experts about the issues and the problems that ensue. So, Fred, would you like to talk use case scenarios?
Yeah, for sure. This is my favorite one because as I'm saying at the beginning, in fact, when you have to try to find the right solution for the end customer, it's important to know how he is working. And one of the benefits of use case scenario is, and you have a couple of them, whoever you are, as for example, a brand manager, a packaging manager, it's not really the same. A brand manager is used to play with some, I would say, standard files, JPEG files, things like that, where a packaging manager have to figure out with very complex PDF file, which is not really the same. We're talking from RGB to spot colors and etc. And it's very important to be able to find a way where you can put all together your customer and the journey alongside some milestones. So we are starting the day searching for, trying to retrieve some assets, trying to start a project. And step by step, these use case scenarios are very important in order to stump the vendor and the solution. And I see so many times that vendors trying to do exactly the same. I can upload, I can search, I can download, but we don't care. What we need to do is, can you do the job we have to figure out from now? And it's not all about downloading or browsing my assets with some basic files. So these use case scenarios are really the foundation for me. And every day I do it with the customers to ready to stump, to find the right solution, to stump the vendors. And that's really great. And I really encourage all the people ready to spend the time to start proof of concept based on this use case scenario. And maybe you'll get some surprise. Maybe you can discover that you have not the right solution, but at the end, you engage the customer and you go to a success.
Thank you, Fred. Okay. we get to the nitty gritty. As I mentioned before, 10 core is a standard, possibly the only recognized standard in the digital asset management industry. Back in 2004, discussions between leading professionals and the DAM Foundation led to the 10 core characteristics development. And 10 core has gained traction over time and vendors have buy-in for it. In fact, we've now accredited 38 vendors across 22 variables within the 10 core dimensions, and I'll get to those in a minute. And we're actually having a 32% fail rate. That's companies that are saying they are DAM vendors, but have actually failed, and in some cases, multiple times on the 10 core test. So what we do is we have a 1-hour blind test demo where we supply various assets with embedded metadata and transformation probabilities coming out of it. And we produce a crib sheet. And in fact, the crib sheet will be available to attendees at the end of this, so they can look not only at how they would evaluate DAM vendors themselves, not just the accredited vendors, but what are the aspects that we use for the accreditation. And all this data is then in the report. And we see that there's a report here for Adobe, and Adobe then classified against the 22 variables. So, and here they are outlined. We have 2 vendors here. Vendor A scores 9 for asset ingestion. Vendor B scores 7. Well, what does that mean? Well, within the crib sheet, we look at the difference between a 7 and a 9. So let me read out the specification to you for asset ingest within the 10 core test. First of all, a score of 6 or 7 means that the vendor has multiple methods to upload, including HTML, hot folders, Dropbox or similar, and numerous options to add metadata, including in bulk. Applying metadata at ingest can be enforced, ensuring assets are properly marked up. Utilizing file translation acceleration technology, Signiant and Aspera. Is it out of the box? Do you have to pay for it? All these things are covered within the 10 core test. And then ultimately, deduplication technology. Do they have it? How well do they do it? Well, in this case, we have a vendor that's also scored a 9 for asset ingestion. So what does that mean? Well, over and above what a score of 7 is, the 8-9 score is a seamless multi-channel upload to the DAM. Complex upload workflows, including individualized workflows based on asset type, and the ability to push and pull from multiple integrated software. And we look at the complexity, it must be accompanied by ease of use. Sadly, no vendors score 10, which is machine-to-machine upload, cybernetics, telepathy, and serendipity, but I'm sure we'll get there in a few years. But just to note, we have a base value at asset ingest called a 0, which means there's no bulk upload and there's only a single method of uploading assets to DAM. Any score within our 10 core characteristics is a 0, then vendor will fail. And we will build a report for the vendors and feed back to them with the crib sheet so they understand exactly what they score, the scores are signed off, and everybody knows exactly where they are. So, Fred, do you want to talk through this particular set of 5 vendors against the 10 core characteristics?
Yeah, for sure. And it's definitely a nice way, easy representation of finally of a scope of a vendor. And as you said, and which is very important, you have to be good everywhere. For most of customers, they need a DAM system capable to do everything. So you have to be able to ingest. As for example, I see so many times vendors failing with the ingest. You have to manage raw files and say, why do we have to manage raw files? Yeah, it's very important, especially for fashion, as for example. And so with this particular view, which is very important, you can really see in a quick seconds that how wide finally the scope of a vendor is, from the ingest, from the search, from the lightbox. And I really like this representation because you can really see, of course, as soon as bigger, you can get a solution which has wider capabilities to do more or less everything. You can also see you don't have to be too much shrink inside the center, otherwise it means you have zero. So it's an easy way, alongside these all 10 core capabilities, to measure the efficiency of DAM system.
Of course, thank you, Fred. Of course, no one is going to just buy a DAM system based on the 10 core characteristics, even though they understand the strategy of that, because basically we want to extend what DAM can do. You know, DAM is the de facto metadata engine, which has the nice touchy-feely of humans interacting with content, rich data. But obviously in the world of the enterprise, you want to extend the DAM. So we also evaluate vendors on intangibles, like influence, uniqueness, cloud proclivity, customer support, value for money, look and feel, etc. And then the final point within our reports and our analysis and all the technical specifications we have, you want to look at future state. How can you move from operational to optimal and to optimize? And this is a good set of analysis here where we see 4 vendors. And obviously master data management is a huge play for the enterprise now. But we're seeing DAM vendors are still scoring quite low in here. But obviously, once you start getting into things like PIM and portals and third-party workflow tools and things like this, the extension of DAM becomes prominent. So I'll see we're getting low on time. So just to overemphasize, the next webinar is going to be a deep dive on gap analysis and resource audit, where we're going to show all our data points. The one after that will be on requirements gathering, where we'll go into the database, show the kind of analysis that we're gathering and the pain points and how you optimize those. Spending a lot of time on governance, talking about governance and the team, use case scenarios, and then finally opening the kimono and showing the vendor data as the de facto play for the end of this. So we look forward to seeing you hopefully on the 9th of June, where we were going for gap analysis and resource audits. Gentlemen, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Just stunning.
Just on time.
Yeah,
exactly
yeah, for sure. No, I think it's and I'm also very delighted to share all the community to these things that are really the foundation. It's very important to start from something, and so from the DAM maturity model to the 6-step to the DAM success. It's very important also to think about the people, about the processes. I'm used to say that, and it's coming from a CEO of Michelin, is right. 95% of the success is all about the people and processes, and 5% is about the technology. But you need to get at one time also the good piece of technology in order to achieve all these business requirements.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Wish you a good day, and see you next time. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Cheers. Bye.